Alright guys, so today we're going to take a look at a pretty interesting pair of headphones. And the pair that we're going to check out are the SIVGA SV021s, or SIVGA. I'm not really sure how to say it, but essentially what it is a $149 pair of closed back headphones that are made with wooden ear cups. Now they're available in two different colors. I actually went with the Zebrano, which is a darker wood. They do have it available in a rosewood, which is obviously a lighter color, but that also changed the whole color scheme of the headphones themselves. But I like the darker look, and I had seen some interesting reviews on this headphone, which is what intrigued me to check these out, because finding a very good sounding pair of studio headphones at around $150 is definitely a sweet spot for a lot of people. There's a lot of people that don't want to spend a whole lot of money into a pair of headphones. They also don't have the money to go out and buy DACs and amps. And the low impedance level of these headphones sitting at around 32 ohms makes them very easy to drive, which means you essentially don't need an amp to get really good volume out of it. Now I am going to say, if you really want to get the most out of a wired pair of headphones or IEMs, I always recommend using a DAC or an amp. I personally just use the ARC MK2, and that is definitely more than enough. Now moving over to actually looking at the headphones, I can go ahead and tell you right now, this is easily one of the most comfortable pair of headphones I've ever tested. Right when you pick them up, the first thing that you notice is how light they are. There's essentially no weight to them at all. It says that the bands on the side are metal, but it is a very lightweight metal. It doesn't have any weight at all. And the headband is a pleather material. It does have some nice stitching at the top. There's not a whole lot of padding in the headband, but there doesn't need to be. There's no weight pulling these down. But the star of the show when it comes to the comfort is definitely these ear pads. I mean, they are huge. They are soft, the memory foam, I mean, there's so much give to them. It's just extremely comfortable, and there's not a tight clamp force, so it's not one of those that's gonna just apply a lot of pressure onto your head anyway. If you're gonna use a pair like this though at the gym or running, I think you might want them to have a little bit more of a clamping force, but I just use them sitting around the house, and you know, for an over-the-ear pair of headphones, you really can forget that these are on your head. Now, the only markings on the outside, there is the SIVGA branding on the outside of the ear cups, and there is a left and right that is only marked on the outside. And then on the bottom of each ear cup is where you have your 2.5mm inputs, because the cable that these come with, it's 2.5mm that plugs into each side of the ear cups, and then it's 3.5mm on the other end. Now they do include the 1/4" adapter if you're going to plug it into, you know, your home stereo system or an amp that actually uses that plug-in. And then the only other thing included in the box is a nice like cloth type carrying pouch. Even though this pair is not wireless, if you do have a phone that has a headphone jack, or if you're using one of the dongles that has the headphone jack, this really is a portable pair of headphones. I mean, for it to be a studio style headphone, it's closed back, so it's not leaking a whole lot of sound, but it's also lightweight, it's small. You could definitely use this as an on-the-go pair of headphones. Now on the drivers, they're using a polycarbonate film, and the drivers make these a very interesting pair of headphones. And I find this is what kind of separates these from some of the other studio headphones, most of which usually kind of focus on the mids and the treble. It is tuned in a way where it is pushing up the low end. It is also pushing up the treble. And for the most part, they're leaving the mids alone. And what this causes, because of the bass that these has. Now, this is not a very punchy bass where you feel a tight impact. It's a lot more loose than what I'm used to in this style of headphone, which really kind of gives these headphones a warmer sound. I would have liked to have seen the bass tightened up a little bit, but that's just me personally. I like to feel the impact of bass, and I listen to a lot of metal. So with drums and things like that, you kind of want it to be quick so it's not dulling out some other frequencies. You want to be able to hear when the drums are being hit each time and not really feel like it's just trying to overpower everything. And essentially this pair is not overpowering everything, but it just doesn't have that tight impact that I'm used to with a lot of other headphones. But also keep in mind that is with a lot more expensive headphones. These at $150, I think a lot of people are going to be impressed with the bass. And if you're listening to genres like pop and hip hop where everything is a little more bass driven, these are definitely fun to listen to. But the other thing that I really liked is the treble. The treble on this pair is very bright and detailed. It can be harsh at times depending on what you're listening to. And I do like that they went in this direction, because if you're having a bass that's that powerful, if you don't have the treble tuned up in a way to have that bright sound, it can easily get lost in a pair of headphones. And luckily that is not the case with these. And like I said, I feel like the mids are just left alone. They're not elevated. They're not trying to push the vocalist any more forward. They're not, doing anything to balance it out with the higher bass and the higher treble. But I don't feel like it's a straight drop like a V-shaped tuning. I think just because the bass and the treble is so high and the mids are left alone, it's still a U-shape, but it just feels like a deeper V tuning because of that. The soundstage and the sound imaging, though, I was extremely impressed with. It is a wide sounding pair of headphones, which is kind of crazy for a dynamic sounding pair of headphones. And being able to tell where different sounds and all are coming from, this pair can easily handle with absolutely no issue. So really, if I had to break it down into the different genres and give my review that way like I've been doing, I would say for pop and hip hop, this is a 9. This is easily a 9 because the bass is fun, the treble's nice and bright, so you're just hearing all the synths, you're hearing the cymbals, everything is very clear. Vocalists, like I said, still come through extremely fine. It is a great sounding headphone for that genre. But if you listen to rock and you listen to metal mainly, and you do like to have the fast impact of the drums and the guitar riffs just, again, move along very quickly but sound nice and tight, this is the only area I would have liked to have seen it maybe be tuned a little bit differently. So I would give it a 7 in this category. It's still fun to listen to in these genres. I don't feel like it's taking away, but just for my personal preference, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more tightness in the low end. And when it comes to classical and easy listening, or anything that's more vocal driven, if it is something that still does have a good amount of bass, it can dull out a little bit of it. And I think it can kind of take away from some of those genres. So for this, I would give it a 7. But for media, now again, this is kind of depending on what you're going to use it for. If you use it for gaming and you want to feel explosions and you want things to sound exciting, this is a great pair of headphones for that. But do keep in mind, if you don't have the mids pushed forward, you're going to kind of miss out on subtle footsteps, and the dialogue is not going to be as forward. And that's usually what you want in a gaming pair of headphones. I like to have the vocals pushed up a little bit. So in this area, I would give these a 6. And so my overall rating, and it's mainly because I do listen to rock and metal most of the time, is a 7. But I think from a value standpoint, if you're looking for a studio pair of headphones that is very well rounded and you just love to have that feeling of low end, if you like that more subwoofer type effect with your bass, I think you will be very happy with this pair. And it's going to be really hard to find a pair that can give you that in this price range, let alone the fact that it is very portable because of its weight, because of its size, and it's easily one of the most comfortable pair of headphones that I've ever put on my head. So guys, that wraps up my video on the SIVGA SV021s. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.